This is our Wednesday night broadcast, and we are going to talk about, well, honoring dads. It's going to be part of our legacy series. As in the month of May, we're going to be starting some new shows, and we're very excited about that. I'll tell you at the end of our broadcast about one that's coming up. But this we're doing a legacy series. As I've been called a legacy mentor in the past because I actually have helped with trying to just plan out your life. Let's say that you're no longer here and you need to plan out some things before you go, right? So I try to help dads understand that that's an important role in life, and I have to try to help them understand that they need to have their house in order because we never know, do we? We never know when that day is going to come. And I just appreciate each and every one of you being here. And if you wish to comment tonight, you may do so. I'm going out on 4 of our platforms tonight. But I am operating mainly off of HAPS. It's a new broadcast studio app, which is really cool. So if you want to learn more about HAPS, you can go actually to my profile there. And if you want to join up, you can actually go. It's all free. Just copy in my link right there, and you can get started with HAPS today. So hello from Glen Burnie. All right. How you doing? Very good. So I'm going to go ahead and invite a special guest in just a moment, a friend of mine tonight, because we're going to talk about honoring dads, part of our legacy series, as I mentioned. And we're going to actually talk about honoring our father. And my friend tonight, she lost her father here a year ago, I think it is, and she's going to talk a little bit about that, but why he was so special to her, even as an adult. Yes, dads, we can, be very instrumental in our kids' lives, even as they're in their adulthood. And I try to be available to our daughter anytime that she needs me to talk because we are a dad for life. It wasn't until they're 18 and then now you're on your own. It's there. We are there for them, or should be there for them, even in their adulthood, because there's many things they're going to be learning. Even as adulthood, they're going to need your advice. So, honoring dads. Let's talk about honor first of all. What is it? Well, it's a good name. It's public esteem. And when you're a dad and you're involved in your kids' lives, well, you really should be giving it your all. And when you have some areas you need to work on yourself before you can be even a better dad, well, you need to do that, and then you can help your children have work through their issues a little bit at a time, because we all have issues, right? So I want you to think about just whatever is your weak spot, so to speak, is that you work on them and make yourself better so you can help your children maybe avoid some of the mistakes that you made. But when I think about honoring dad, well, even as an adult, your dad is still important to you if he's built that good relationship with you, and you want to honor him, you want to respect him. Recently I saw a post about a father who was in his 80s, and a man was sitting there at the restaurant with him, and his father was having trouble eating food, and it was dropping all over his lap, and people around him was getting kind of disgusted. And he just really didn't even pay any attention to that. He paid attention to his father because his father was there when he was learning to eat too. Well, now with his dad being older and can't control certain things, well, he wanted to be there for his dad. So he didn't really care what other people around him are thinking. He cared about his father. So that's paying respect, and that was honoring his father, no matter what people around him were thinking. You see, we're going to leave a legacy. Is it going to be a good one? Is it going to be worth having? Are you going to be worth talked about? Simply because it's everything that we're doing today for our children and is going to be lasting if you've done it the best that you can and being there for them. I'm going to invite my friend Celia Kibler in right now. And I'm still learning this, so let me see how I can do this. All right. I think I just invite her in. We'll see. And see if she can join us in tonight. I think I know what I'm doing here, but we'll see. You're not there yet, are you? Okay. So let me see. What am I doing here? How do I invite you in? Okay. I'm learning this, guys. All right. Yeah. Are you in? There you are. Are you there?
I think I'm
Oh,
here.
hey. Hey, there you are. Okay.
I
I'm
mean,
learning this.
it took
Okay.
a
Come
few
on.
steps to
Bear
get
with me,
here.
Celia. Bear with me.
Yay for us.
Well, I'm going through a lot of changes and learning this thing, but I'm excited about this new app, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I love it. I just have
Yeah.
to figure out the technology of it all. But it's great and adjust myself here. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
I
excited to
tell
be
you,
here. It went very
we're
smoothly. We're both on camera.
yeah, I can see that. So, and I just learned how to split us up tonight, so that's really cool. But I'm really excited to have you with us tonight. Just did a little monologue on why we're here tonight and why we're talking about dads. And I just appreciate you being with us. And I know the story with your dad. And I just like, first of all, tell us who you are and what you do, and then we'll get to talking about our dads.
Well, thanks, Keith. And, I'm really grateful for having you, and not only as a friend, but just as a person that, we collaborate a lot together. And I'm so grateful that our paths crossed years ago and we've kept in close contact. And, we do so much together. I'm so grateful for that because you're a wonderful, your impact on the world is monumental. So, uh,
Thank
so
you so
who,
much. So tell us about
oh,
adult parenting.
So who I am is I'm Celia Kibler, and I'm an author and family empowerment coach, founder of Pumped Up Parenting, and founder of Fun Fit Family Fitness. I'm on a mission to stop a million parents from yelling at their kids and offer parents strategies, techniques, so that they can end the generational cycles of abuse and dysfunction and start creating childhoods that everyone can blossom from. So that's what I do. I'm a mom of five. I've been parenting a blended family for 25 years now, over 25 years, and I'm a grandma to 9 kids. So that's what I do.
Wow. So you stay a little bit busy, don't you, Celia?
I do. I stay busy.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you're on every night, or I think how many nights do you broadcast when you're reading? You're reading children's books?
Well, so we have story time on Monday and Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I broadcast with parenting tips on Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. in the morning, also Eastern time. So that's what I do.
Well, you definitely are impacting parents, and I like the mission of having a million parents not yell at their kids. That's for sure. So I appreciate everything that you're doing, but tonight I asked you to come on because we're talking about honoring dads. This is going to be part of our legacy series that we're starting, and my internet connection's in and out, and I'm hoping that we're going to get through this okay for the next few minutes. But you and Maddie, your sister Maddie, cheers, you've talked to me a little bit about your dad, and we are going to be writing a book later towards the end of the year about honoring dads. And he was such a neat guy, and I love to hear you talk about him because, I've heard other sides of stories about the people talking about their dads, but you really honor your dad, don't you, Celia?
He was a great guy. He was larger than life, and as he accomplished so much in his life and did so much for humanity, but always felt like, it was never a big deal. And the most important thing to him was his family and the love of his family and the accomplishments of his family. So that's really what mattered to him. Bottom line, all the great things he did, and there were many. He's responsible for installing seatbelts into automobiles. Him and 3 buddies of his got, did all the testing and everything that needed to be done to get airplane seatbelts into cars. And he invented and created the fastest warship in the Navy. Actually, the fastest warship anywhere when it goes 100 knots. And yeah, he worked on the Apollo missions, sent men to the moon, and he just felt like none of this was a big deal. what was a big deal was his family and his children and the love he had for all of us. And we all knew that. I remember one time we got into trouble in school, and well, I didn't get in trouble. I never got in trouble. One of my older sisters got into trouble, and he had to go to the school, and he walked into the principal's office and he said, "This better be important because I just canceled a meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff to be here." And that was the thing that we knew. We knew nothing was more important than us. And he proved it all the time. And that unconditional love, it's what I try to impress upon parents all the time.
And that's important. In the teachings I've done over the last 17 years of our nonprofit here, I've always tried to tell them that, you know, what you do for your kids, and you prove to them, you can say one thing and you can do another. And what they're going to do is they're going to watch what you do. And but that right there speaks volumes, because I remember when our daughter she was only in probably the third grade, she was going to be in a play where she was a bumblebee. And I almost quit my job because they weren't going to let me off that morning to go watch her be a bumblebee. so so I think about, as dad, sometimes when I didn't cancel a meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but it was important to me to be there. And that was the same with your dad, no matter how important his meeting was at work, it sounds like.
Exactly. And, and the thing is, you hear so many businesses and so many people that are focused on so much money, and they go, well, they tell people that, well, sometimes you have to miss things for your family because you're leaving them this legacy of money that, that will support them forever. Except that if all you're leaving them is money and you're not leaving them memories of their childhood and their life, you miss an 8-year-old birthday party. That's the only 8-year-old birthday party that child's ever going to have. You miss a school play. I remember my sister was a poodle in a ballet. You miss something. When's she going to be a poodle again? Who knows? Maybe. It those. Yeah, I always say the best things in life aren't things at all. And you miss those things in life, you miss your child's life.
And time's going by so quickly anymore. I was only 11 when my dad died, so I didn't have a lot of those memories. But I recently went to two mentors' funerals of mine. There was older gentlemen, but both of their families was there in Grove simply because they were sad. I mean, that he was gone, but they had all these memories, and I was hearing about these memories, and I said, that's exactly what I'm talking about, is leave memories. Don't just leave money and stuff they're going to sell, because they will sell it probably, but is to leave memories, because they can't sell that. It's in their heart. And when we do that as dads or parents, is when we do that, when we're instilling those kind of values and those morals, that's something that's going to carry them if we're not here. I mean, I'm hearing of friends of mine that have died so young, and they're leaving children behind, but these gentlemen have been involved in their kids' lives. They should be around a lot longer, but we never know about tomorrow. That dash gets shorter for us each and every day that we live. So, but when I've heard you talk about your dad, and it just made me think about the type of life that we can leave, no matter how important we are in our job. And sometimes we're more important in our job than we are at home, and I think that's backwards.
Exactly.
I think we need to really be as much involved with our kids' lives as possible. So tell us, what were some really things that carried you into an adulthood, that made you really look back and say, thanks, Dad?
Well, it's funny because I have some great stories, but there was always humor in our house. I mean, up to the day that man died at 92 years old, he was still cracking jokes, and he could deliver a joke like nobody's business. And as much as I try to deliver jokes like he does, he just could do it so well. Music was always part of our lives. And, every musical in the world, I know my sisters and my brother and I can recite from beginning to end. It's funny because I was playing Trivial Pursuit one time with these friends of mine when we were at the beach, and I was in the kitchen doing the dishes, and they were in the living room playing Trivial Pursuit. And I hear my friend Gary, and he says, okay, because we were playing teams, him and his wife, and me and my husband. And he said, if you can guess the answer to this question, I will strip down naked, go out in the street, and give you a half hour to draw a crowd. And he said, who wrote the Mikado? And in the kitchen, I mean, like with not even a breath, I said Gilbert and Sullivan. And he's like, how did you know that? And I'm like, well, because I spend almost every day of my life listening to Gilbert and Sullivan. And I was like, so get moving. But it's like at that moment, I was like, thanks, Dad, because that was just such a great moment. I was never so grateful that I was constantly listening to Gilbert and Sullivan growing up. But so much music and laughter was part of our home. And I'm so grateful because so much of that was my father. Music, a lot, my mom, the humor, definitely my dad. And it's just things like that, and it always shows up. You always have it.
And you do. And our daughter, when she was growing up her teen years, I was brought up in the 70s. I was a 70s rock and roll drummer. I know all this music in my head. When you converse with me about something, I said, that reminds me of a song. And my wife says, oh, here we go again. Then I'll start singing the lyrics or two. Well, when I did that with our daughter so young, I thought she really didn't like it. But then she come home one day and she said, Dad, can I look in your closet? And I said, well, why do you want to look in my closet? She said, I need some clothes that you used to wear in high school because we're having a 70s party. I'm going like, I can't wear my leisure suit anymore. Okay. So it's not hanging in the closet. So, but it's interesting how she picked up on all the music that I used to just play around with in my head with conversation because I remembered it so much. But she's very much a fan of worship music today and all. And she really just appreciates all forms of music as long as they're uplifting. So it is very important that we as parents, share music with our children.
Yes,
So
create a culture in your home, and our culture was definitely music and laughter. So go ahead, answer. What was the question? Sorry.
You had other siblings. So did he spend time with each of you, plus together as a family as well?
Yes, so there were a lot of things. My father was a huge gun collector, and he we joke about it because he had so many antique guns in the house. When we cleaned out our house, and we just recently sold the house that I was born in. My parents built that house 65 years ago, and we just sold it last week, 2 weeks ago. But when we were cleaning out, we were still finding bullets and guns. Like we'd open up something and there'd be a shell of a gun. But like he used to we all went to the rifle range when we were younger, but he specifically did that with my brother. It was all about taking him to the rifle range. He was in tournaments. We were on me and my two sisters, we were on swim teams. We would do specific things with each of us. We would go hiking a lot. I would always be the one that got ticks all over my body, but he would do different things with each of us, as well as so many things together and a lot of family events. Even just every spring break, we would drive down to Florida, and that drive in the car, it's not like now where parents put on videos and, they don't talk to each other. We were playing card games. We sang 19 hours down to Florida. And it was just those are such great memories. they're the best. I mean, they're the best memories, and I try to repeat them for my children.
Our my wife and I have had a conversation about her dad because they had a lot of children, and they were talking about how, in a station wagon, he just piled into the station wagon. There were no seat belts. Everybody I mean, they're laying in the back, or their feet up in the window, whatever. It's just because that's the way things were different back then. But there was no videos, and there were no iPads and things that you could, take up their time today. And now you go down the road and there's like 4 different video screens in the seats and all that. But it's fun to have those moments where there is none of that technology, where you're really
Right.
conversing and having those good conversations. And I'm sure that drive down to Florida from where you live, I'm sure there was a lot of conversation, a lot of loud talking, a lot of yelling or laughing, that kind of thing, trying to just pass the time. But I appreciate fathers like yours, and I've known a lot of them through other people, and I know that it takes work, doesn't it, Celia?
It does, and it wasn't easy, and, a lot of people ask me why I'm on this mission to stop yelling, and part of it is due to my dad because he was the yeller in the family. All the great things he did in life, he was physically and mentally abused as a child. And he didn't bring the physical abuse into our family, but he did bring the mental abuse. And he had an extremely short temper. And he would constantly well, not constantly, but he would randomly belittle my mom. And we grew up with all that. And he hated himself for doing that. But, it's like, it's interesting because the reason I do what I do is because here is this great man who had this great legacy that he left not only to his family but to the world. I mean, how many people have been saved by buckling a seatbelt around their laps? I mean, this really huge impact on the world, and yet he thought he was mediocre. If you asked him up to the day he died, how do you think your life was? He's like, well, I should have done better. I should have done this. I could have done this. And that's all because of the way he was raised as a child and his father made him feel like he was nothing important. And so it's coming out and really being intentional as he could, doing the best job he could to raise his family. I think even with the yelling and the belittling of my mom, I think they did pretty good. They stayed married almost 70 years before my mom passed away from ALS, which was the biggest devastation to my dad. And he lived 2 years longer after she passed away. And, you have to be intentional. And even though he felt like he failed and he was a failure, I think he did a pretty good job.
Well, we know you, and you've turned out all right, I guess. So I'm sure he was challenged a little bit with you, Celia, but we've been around you long enough. We love your humor, so we know there had to be a lot of humor in your house.
Oh, there's a lot of jokes. I mean, the man lived by science and skill, went out over ignorance and superstition. He was the king of one-liners, but he was always about that science and skill.
Looking at some of our comments, I see our friend Justin's on here, and he was talking about how, when we're speaking truth about our kids just want us to be present. And when I do some teaching, I'll say your kids do want you to be present more than they want your presence sometimes. Yes. And it's so important because I'll tell you, we got a new show coming up. I'll go ahead and mention that with you because I've got a story behind it. The new show coming up in May called Dad's Garage, and we're very excited about it. I saw the promo today that we filmed, and I'm going like, wow, that looks pretty good. So anyway, at least the promo does. But I don't know about the host. But anyway, so we're getting ready for this show, and I went to a classic car show recently to just kind of listen, walk around, listen to dads and kids, because that's what it is. They want you to bring your kids. They want to talk about the classic cars from the past. And I walked up to the hood of a car. It was a nice, I think it was a Camaro. Anyway, no, it was a Nova, I believe is the one I'm listening to, was this dad telling his son, this is a carburetor. This is what the carburetor did back in those days. And your dad used to work on his own carburetor. And the kid's eyes is like, can we just YouTube it? But he was listening to his dad talk about something that really we don't do anymore. And that's work on our own cars, unless we can have a computer to plug into it to tell us what the problem is, right? But when you have things, I feel like when dads can do something with their kids of their interest or yours that they like, for instance, if they like video games, play with them, video game, learn their games, but don't do it all the time. But you can converse that way, can't you, Celia? You work with a lot of parents. The more things you can involve with each other, the more conversation you can have about life.
Absolutely.
Do you agree?
Absolutely. Connect with them. It's so funny. I told you when you started that dad's garage, because my dad used to rebuild antique cars, and he was always working on cars, and he taught each of us how to work on cars. He didn't care that he had 3 girls and a boy. It didn't just target my little brother. It was all of us. We all had to go out there and learn about cars. And when we started driving, we had to pass his test. The heck with the driving school. We had to pass his test in a car, and we had to know, how to change tires and how to do things in a car, change your oil, check your oil, things like that. That was mandatory. And, and it's interesting though, what you said about connecting with your kids. And a lot of it is, you also want to connect with what they're interested in. You mentioned video games, and my son, I've told the story a lot about my son, has been a gamer his whole life. I think when it came out of the womb. And I always showed an interest in gaming. I didn't take it like, oh, all you're doing is playing video games. No, he had boundaries, he had limits. He wasn't allowed to play video games all the time. But he grew up and he got a degree in video gaming. He went to work for one of the biggest video game companies all over. And, and he met his wife in that video game company. So it's, and with my dad, I remember he bought us some Beatles 45s. But then the first album he bought us was Santana Abraxas, which I thought was so cool. That was like so cool for a dad to buy a Santana. And it was such a good, he loved it. And he did it. He didn't buy us. Although he had Caruso and Gilbert and Sullivan and all the musicals, but he thought, what would we like? And he went and bought this album. And we were like thrilled. We were like, oh, Dad, you're so cool, But you really want to think about not just what you want, but what do your kids want and what drives them and what is their passions and how can you be a positive influence on that?
I think that is so important, though. We can really relate with our kids about things, and it's easier to do if we just choose to do it than we think it is, because I think sometimes we feel like it's harder, because we don't understand. We don't listen to the music on their phone. Well, parents, you should. Okay, you should listen to what they're listening to, and know what's out there today, because a lot of it is not something you probably would approve of. But the thing is, I think the more we're involved with our kids, and even if you're separated, divorced, there's a lot of that in our world today. But even with that and being said, you can still be involved. There's more technology available today for parents to stay in contact with their children, whether you're divorced or not, because I had a beeper. I was really cool, according to my daughter back then, with a beeper. But, when the cell phone came out, a bag phone, I've got one right here in the studio, actually. I carried it on my shoulder. I was really cool. It was really cool, right? We were cool. We could carry that on our shoulder. But the thing is, today there's so much technology. We have to be involved in their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Celia Kibler of Pumped Up Parenting. She's been a 30-year parenting coach and teaching kids and parents about fitness. Just really involved with changing the way we do parenting sometimes because she learned from it. She learned by doing it. And with all her grandchildren, I guess you still are, aren't you, Celia?
Yeah, yeah, I was with them, 4 of them today, just helping them get through their virtual school and everything like that. 2 of them are back here with me because 'cause they're staying with me for 2 weeks. But yeah, I love my grandbabies. I really love they're the next step of the best part of life.
We had we have 3 of them. We had them down just recently, and they love the Florida sunshine, obviously. So, we they had to go back up to where you're at, actually, in that area. So,
That's right.
but you know, we've been talking about honoring dads, folks, and if your dad is still with you, make sure you reach out to him this week and just tell him you love him. And even if it's a difficult situation, where some healing has to be done, let it start with you. Somebody has to start it because there will come a day when you look back and really wish you had. I think um, if he's no longer with you, and maybe there's some hard feelings. Sometimes, Celia, I've told them to write a letter. Write a
Yeah.
letter and get it out of their heart. And but if your dad was really involved with them and he's no longer with you, remember those good things. Remember those good feelings and the memories that he did. And you do that with your children, your grandchildren. Even if they're adults and you have grandchildren now and you didn't do so well with your children, you can still turn that around with your grandchildren. I do believe that. But it's not that we're really looking for all the kudos. We just need to do what's right to help them. Our world is not going to train them right. You have to be that trainer. You have to be the one to teach them. Even though all the stuff is going on in our world, Celia, I believe that we can still say the world in our family is not like that. We think differently. We're doing things differently, and teach them respect, teach them love, teach them values and morals. Don't you agree?
Yes, yes. It never goes out of style. We were talking about this earlier when we were on Clubhouse, and we were talking about how, you see these posts about how people say you can't parent children nowadays like, your parents parented you. And I just simply don't agree. Kids need morals. They need core values. They need to be kind, generous, compassionate, well-mannered. They need to be respectful. They need to learn to trust and be trusted. And these things don't go out of style, and it's never too late. It's never too late to create happy childhoods for all of you. So don't think just because my child's a teenager, oh, I missed the boat. No, you've never missed the boat. I don't care how old your kids are, you can turn it around. And thank you to whoever said that they love me. I appreciate that. Love you too, but I don't know who you are because it says Facebook user.
Yeah, well, we do love you, Celia. You're pretty awesome.
And I love you, Keith.
But, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to Celia Kibler of Pumped Up Parenting tonight. If you want to learn more, how do they find out about you, Celia?
So, guys, if you're looking for me, you can simply search Celia Kibler, CeliaKibler.com, PumpedUpParenting.com. I'm pretty much everywhere. And if you're interested in my book, Raising Happy Toddlers, How to Build Great Parenting Skills and Stop Yelling at Your Kids, or my 3 children's books, all available at celiasbooks.com. That's celiasbooks.com. Reach out to me if you have questions, you need help. That's what I'm here for. I'd love to hear from you.
Well, there you go. There you got it right there. You heard it from Celia Kibler herself. She is a legend to our mastermind group. So
thank you.
And we
you
love
are
you.
too.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And once again, I don't think I asked you this. Your dad's name?
Oh, so my dad's name is Nat Kobitz. And Nat is short for nothing. It is Nat. That is his name. It's not Nathaniel. It's not Nathan. And interestingly enough, the majority of us do not even have middle names. My sister does, and my brother does. But my mom, my dad, me, Maddie, none of us have middle names. We're just short and sweet. And his name is Nat Kobitz. And He was a great man, and I miss him dearly, and it was a year of his passing this past Monday, and it's hard to believe it's been a year, guys. Love each other, forgive each other. Like Keith said, this is not a dress rehearsal. None of us are getting out of here alive. So make every day count because the time just goes way too fast.
It does. It does, Celia. It's been 54 years now for my dad, and I still, I think about him and think about my grandparents, and just life is too so short. There's a scripture talks about life's a vapor and then it's gone. So, but I
Yes.
appreciate you being with us tonight. We will have to do this again, and you get some rest because you're always on the go. So I appreciate you being with us tonight. And Celia's dad will be represented in our book. When that comes out, she's going to write a story about her dad. We are writing a book called Honoring Dads, and his story will be represented in that. If you have a story you want to submit, you may do that and send it to Keith@dadsforlife.com, and we will look that over. We're getting closer to that towards the end of the year. So thank you so much, Celia, for joining us tonight here
Thank you,
on.
Keith, for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you later on. Bye-bye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to Celia Kibler, Pumped Up Parenting tonight from the our Honor Dads Legacy series that we're doing. Occasionally, we'll be doing that, having a story about a dad's, and we just I just wanted to invite Celia in because her dad is so. I mean, I've heard stories about him. He was just so awesome. You may have an awesome dad too. You want to highlight in our series, we'll be glad to talk to you about that. So let me tell you what's coming up. The Dads for Life Radio Network, and we are doing some neat things here coming in May. We are opening up a new show. It's called Dad's Garage. It has been with me in my mind for a while, and it is now all coming together with some certain key people which are helping to sponsor the first show. We're excited about that. Should be out the first week. In fact, I'm trying to get it ready and uploaded for May 1st. So the promotion video will be out very soon. Hopefully by the first of the week, we'll get that out so you can see a little bit more about what Dad's Garage will be about. But mainly it's going to be talking about restoration. Restoration in our when you restore a classic car, it takes a lot of time, takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of money sometimes, and it takes a lot of polish, doesn't it? So sometimes our lives get a little bit out of whack, and we have to restore certain things about our life to make our life get back on track and look a little polished. So that's what Dad's Garage came about, and we're really excited about that show idea. So be looking for that. Be coming out in May. So guys, I appreciate you being with me tonight, and we will talk to you again soon on Friday. We'll be back for Friday Night Live and 8 o'clock p.m. So look for us right here at the Dads Radio Network, part of the Dads for Life group. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.